What's going on, guys? Today we are going to look at a few clips from Nick's last live stream, but I do want to first point out that you could watch that video in its entirety on the Monsters and Memories official YouTube page that you see here before you. And also want to point out that you can watch from the devs to the artists working live on their individual Twitch accounts, their personal Twitch accounts. All the links for that stuff that you need is going to be down in the description. It is worth going and watching them live. It is fun and inspirational, and you get to shoot the shit, maybe ask them some questions and get the answers back in real time while you chill and hang out with the community. If you can't make the live streams though, the next best thing is to go ahead and come to their YouTube page and see their over 900 VODs and videos that you could watch at your own leisure. I do want to point out though that Shawn, aka A Loving Robot, is doing a series where he is building a zone with the community, a zone called Scarwood, that I believe should be in for early access. So if you want to take part in some Monsters and Memories history, make sure to show up to those streams. But once again, all the links that you could possibly need are going to be down in the description. Today we're going to take a look at Nick's stream from August 5th, about a week ago. It was a whopping 5 hours of Nick taking questions, concerns, and feedback from you, me, whoever showed up, really. Today we are just going to take a couple clips out of that 5-hour stream, though, not nearly going to even take a dent out of that. But in the first clip, Nick speaks about the possibility of epic quests for spells, armor, weapons. He also mentions the possibility of removing some spells from the vendor after early access begins. Let's see what he has to say.
Are you intending for Torpor to come back? LOL. Kidding, I don't miss the spell dominating my spell list. You never know, like, I could see us, being inspired by, certain abilities like that, especially like a really powerful ability that has like a drawback to it, and it's like rare, but it's really powerful, and like I like abilities like that, so I could definitely see something similar to it popping up. But and there are like a couple of abilities that I have added to the merchants that I think I'm gonna yoink later and make it like dropped or research and stuff. But in this alpha for early access stage, I'm just kind of throwing things out there. But in the future, you never know. Like, better buy your abilities ASAP when EA starts, because you never know what's gonna get plucked off the vendor and forced to be acquired in a different way down the line. So you guys got the leg up by being here and knowing that. Are there plans for epic quests or quests for pinnacle / alternate spells? Yes, plans for epic quests. Not necessarily weapons. Well, weapons, yes, but also potentially armor, or yes, definitely there's going to be like pinnacle spells, drop spells, research spells, many different sources, right? And some of them will be rare and sought after, and think of your like Torpors and Call of the Heroes and EverQuest, right? Definitely want to kind of evoke a similar feeling with that.
Interesting stuff in the works for questing in Monsters and Memories. A nice little tip there at the end, something to keep in mind come early access when they're not going to be wiping characters anymore at that point. And one more tip is that you can buy spells ahead of time, and you can even mend them to your spell book ahead of time. You just can't use them until you're the appropriate level. Spells are actually pretty cheap so far, I've found, in Monsters and Memory. Not too bad. In this next clip, Nick speaks about the alpha XP rates. Are they here to stay, or have they been boosted so that players can test out more of the game? He also touches on thoughts of where the M&M team's heads are at when it becomes launch day and the spawn rates in the newbie zones or congestion in the newbie zones. Let's take a listen.
Are there any plans to slow the XP rate down after the test and or EA, hell levels, etc.? So there may be like a slowing of XP by like certain nerfs that happen to like pets or like players or itemization, stuff like that. But I honestly think XP is in a good spot. It just might be a case of like respawns are too fast and mobs are too easy. And that can change without having to change the actual experience amount. I think the experience amounts are probably fine, but group experience and then just balance of design data is gonna come into the equation there. Curious when early access goes live and people are fighting for space to find mob density, how this will end up being. I was wondering if there is any ideas for higher mob density or maybe dynamic respawning based off of players and zones or kill speed of mobs in the area. I want to see your thoughts on the topic and direction you want to see it go. As far as fighting for mobs and density and stuff and dynamic respawns, it's all possible, and may be utilized to help with, you know, certain situations on like high density launches. But we want to be careful that it's not like a manipulated thing that you could just like spawn unnamed over and over or something crazy like that, right? WoW has kind of had issues with this, with like layering and hyper spawns and stuff, like kind of trivializing certain things, and that doesn't feel good. So it'll probably be more a mechanism for like super early dense newbie mob situations and stuff like that, not like named or lucrative spawns.
All right, so they are liking where the XP rates are in the game. Nick did mention the difficulty of mobs. Personally, I think they feel good out in the open world, the difficulty of mobs, that is. And I will say, in the dungeon, like in Wormrest, it really did feel like you're just bone grinding. I was going to say meat grinding, but they're all skeletons in there, so it feels like you're just grinding up mobs, and it does feel like they're a bit too easy. Now, in these dungeons areas, maybe they could be touched up, maybe they can be made more difficult, because I feel like, especially in these dungeons, you're kind of expected to be in a group, and maybe even like a full-on group. And when you're in a full-on group in these dungeons right now, or at least Wormrest, so I can only speak to Wormrest, but it really does feel like you're just super powerful and there's no real challenge. So making those specific mobs harder, and maybe they are. I'm only speaking to Wormrest, so maybe in the higher end dungeons it is more challenging, or maybe my group was a higher level. Maybe you want to go in there and fight them while they're yellow and higher level. Anyways, I don't know. I did like how they were conscious of the possible exploitation and stuff that can happen with hyper spawns and with layering, and how layering just doesn't, in general, it just doesn't feel very good. So, you know, it's good to be conscious about those things. In this next clip, we're going to check out sound effects and visual effects, and specifically when it is in terms to spells and abilities. Let's take a listen.
Bard VFX is overwhelming. I found it to be actively unfun to be in groups with them. Yeah, agreed. So we just brought on a VFX artist, a talented VFX artist. So we'll be adjusting a lot of VFX coming soon. And I'm also talking with Robert about getting us some more casting sound effects. You'll see that the fire nukes now have their own unique spell effect sounds. And this will be extending to other lines as well. I've requested some frost sound effects. But yeah, in general, we need more sound effects, and I'm going to be taking more of an active role in kind of communicating our needs to Robert. And yeah, and when he has that information, he's quick to act. So we'll get a lot of that stuff coming in. So, you know, artistically, the abilities are going to be a lot cooler, from the VFX to the sounds.
All right, it's good to hear that they have hired on a new VFX guy. I think that is somewhere that's kind of lacking at this time in the alpha. So I'm glad to hear that. I did notice on my paladin that some of his spells or abilities were lacking any visual effects, such as the shield throw. I don't actually have, like it's an Avenger shield where it bounces and stuff. There's no effect to it. The mobs just kind of coming at you. So looking forward to that. And they're going to send more work Robert's way. Robert is an absolute genius. He's the guy who's responsible for all the magical music and sound effects that they have now. So I can't wait to hear what he cranks out next. We're going to take a look at a really short clip here where they touch on, because this is actually, I've gotten a lot of comments about this actually in past videos, where they're just going to touch on kind of like what platforms or operating systems that Monsters and Memories is going to be available on, and any thoughts on that. And then we're going to get quite a sizable clip where Nick is going to discuss having live GMs and camp disputes and the likes of that, which when the server's launching, probably be a little bit of a hot topic, chaosing, camp jacking, and play nice policy, that kind of stuff. So he's going to touch on that, and that'll finish us out. So let's take a listen.
What platforms is the MMO going to release on? Just PC? So we want to have a Mac build. We have a Mac build that's fairly viable. It just, we need to get some like automation and like patcher stuff going for it. And then there's also an issue within Unity where it's like too many lights and it causes like this pixelization effects, and that is more prominent on the Mac version, I believe. But I believe it's also a bug with Unity engine itself, for specifically for the Mac. So when that issue is resolved and we resolve some things on our end, then we'll probably be able to be on Mac. No promises, but it's looking optimistic for a Mac build. I don't know about Linux. I know that people can get the game working on Linux, so there's that. But it's not like a native like supported thing, and obviously neither is Mac currently. But we're moving in that direction. Last stream you mentioned how you wanted GM to handle camp disputes. Does that mean there are defined camps or boundaries of camps? GMs will handle camp disputes. That does mean there isn't necessarily defined camps, but you can camp a mob and like, so I would say you can camp a mob in a room, like a named mob, and any mob in the line of sight of that is kind of considered a camp in my book. Outdoor zones, it's a little bit different. Like, I think you should be able to camp. I think outdoor camps should be respected if it's like a very like known quantity, but otherwise you should be able to just camp a respawn location, right? And yourself or your group is one entity and can only claim one spot. If there's and another group or a person or group is another entity, and they should only be able to claim one spot. Now, if you both claimed a spot and there's like a third spot that is not being pulled, then it's a free-for-all situation, right? Like, whoever tags the mob first should have ownership of that. Otherwise, it would be like a kill-stealing situation. So while there is claiming of camps, there shouldn't be egregious like monopolization going on, right? And we're gonna work on our play nice policy and get it out there. But yeah, the idea is that very much there is gonna be, enforced camps. We're already doing some of this in our alpha tests. If you petition about a camp dispute, we're going to come handle it, right? We're going to figure out what's going on. We have tools that we can look at to help with that. So play nice, play by the rules, but also you got to watch out for the people that are trying to rules lawyer people and kind of grief in that way. And we're not going to tolerate a lot of that. Like, I know that on like Project 1999 and some other servers, like people have really gone so crazy with the rules lawyering. And if you're doing this whole like sob story kind of situation, like we're just as likely to want to ban you, like, or suspend you or warn you in those situations, because we don't want this whole like cry wolf culture that some servers and some games have experienced. It's really annoying. It's frustrating as customer service people. It's frustrating as players that have to deal with that. So play by the rules and make sure that you understand the rules, so you don't think that other people are breaking the rules, so you don't report them and for, not breaking the rules, I guess. Like, be aware of our policies as we release them, and in the meantime, just try to, play nice, and just try to be 20% nicer to people out there, and you'll probably be in a good situation, and the community will be in a good situation because of that.
So they are working on a Mac build, but it isn't quite ready yet. They don't have any support for Linux, and they don't really know what it'll be like in the future, but there are some people who have it currently working on Linux. And I have heard from Shawn that if you search through the Discord, maybe keyword Linux, you will be able to find some of the community members sharing how they got it working on Linux. So that is something that you can go do and get working on Linux for the time being. Live GMs, this was a staple for MMOs back in the day, and it got squashed by automation, as a money-saving decision. I love hearing that that's something that they want to do. They want that to be a feature of this MMO. And I really hope that they could pull that off. I know it's not easy, and it does cost money, but a lot of us have always, maybe this isn't their plan. I'm not saying this is their plan. I think they want to pay their GMs well. Once, everything's going, early access is going, they got money coming in, and they start getting paid in the first place, they do want to pay their GMs well. But I know a lot of us who've played like live EverQuest or live WoW or something like that, have always said, dude, you could just be paying people minimum wage just to squash the bot problem, squash the hackers. How many times have you or I or anybody just reported the same bot that's in the same spot that's just farming stuff mindlessly, obviously a bot, over and over and over, day after day after day? None of these MMOs these days do anything about it except for the guys working out of their garage on these EMU servers. They're the only people who could do anything about it. All the other ones that are getting paid are just turning a blind eye to it. Extremely aggravating, to say the least. But that's going to wrap it up for this video today. Don't forget to check out the description for all the links to all the people, to all the streams, to all the vids. Make sure to be there. Show up in person to some of these live streams. Join the community. The next playtest for Monsters and Memories is going to be a 7-day playtest. Starts on September 1st. So see you there. And if I don't, I will see you in the next video.